When did trying to save one person end up destroying two more? I managed a family restaurant where Maria worked doubles every weekend, pulling in more tips than any other server we had. She'd count her cash at the end of each shift and carefully divide it into envelopes right there at the counter where everyone could see. The ritual changed 3 weeks ago when her husband Mateo started showing up before closing, looking like he hadn't slept in days. He'd stand by the register shifting his weight foot to foot while Maria handed him her entire apron without counting anything first. After watching this happen 4 nights straight, I finally asked Maria if everything was okay at home, and she completely broke down in the supply closet between the mop buckets and bleach bottles. I offered to start paying her tips by check instead of cash, but she begged me not to because Mateo would just make her go to those check cashing places that stayed open all night. Mateo's younger brother had gotten clean 90 days ago at the only rehab center nearby that would take someone with his history of failed treatments and psychotic episodes. The place specialized in dual diagnosis, and for the first time in 5 years, the kid was actually improving and calling Mateo every Sunday to talk about his progress. Insurance covered the first 60 days, but the final month cost $15,000 that had to be paid in full by Friday, or they'd discharge him to the street. Mateo had been driving to the casino every single night, convinced he could turn Maria's 200 in tips into 15,000 with this roulette system he'd found online that guaranteed wins if you just doubled your bet after each loss. He'd already burned through $3,000 this way, but he kept insisting the math would work if he just had one good night. Maria started stashing part of her tips in a tampon box in her car, but when Mateo found it, he accused her of not believing in him and took that money too. She'd watch him leave for the casino and then sit in her car recording voice messages to herself about how much she loved him but couldn't keep living like this. I heard one because she accidentally sent it to our workgroup chat instead of saving it privately. She called it a dramatic reading for a voice acting audition when we asked her about it, but we knew better. I slipped the number for a gambling addiction hotline into her locker, but found it in the bathroom trash the next morning, torn into tiny pieces. The next night, Mateo came in during the dinner rush and saw Maria's apron overflowing with 20s from a big party she'd just served. You told me last night was slow, but you're loaded right now, so you've been lying to my face while my brother's life hangs in the balance. Maria handed him everything while our dishwasher watched, and later he told me Maria went to the bathroom and didn't come out for 20 minutes. When she finally emerged, her eyes were swollen, but she smiled at her next table like nothing had happened. The night before the Friday deadline, Mateo showed up with tears streaming down his face. He'd won $4,000 on a single roulette spin and wanted Maria to see the chips before he cashed them out. Maria started sobbing and collapsed against him in the doorway while customers tried to squeeze past them to leave. Mateo promised he'd drive the $4,000 straight to the rehab at dawn and figure out the rest somehow, even if he had to sell his truck. Instead of going home though, he went back to the casino because he was finally on a hot streak, and $11,000 was just a few lucky spins away. He lost everything before midnight, and when he came to pick up Maria, he couldn't even look at her face. She already knew what had happened because she'd been watching the ATM withdrawals from their joint account in real time on her phone. She handed him that night's tips without saying a single word, and he drove back to the casino while she stood in our parking lot staring at nothing. I tried everything else I could think of, so I followed him. I found Mateo at a roulette table, surrounded by other desperate people at 3 in the morning, betting Maria's last $40 on red. When it hit black, he put his head down on the table, and the dealer had to ask him to move so they could continue the game. I dragged him outside and told him he was destroying Maria and his brother, with this delusion that gambling would save anyone. He firmly grabbed my shoulders and said, "My brother put a gun in his mouth last time he relapsed, and next time, he won't call me first to say goodbye." Then he showed me a text from his brother that said, "Thank you for believing I could get better, even when I didn't believe it myself," and asked if I could really tell him to give up now. I wanted to ban him from ever coming to the restaurant again, but Maria had already picked up extra shifts at a diner across town and was hiding that entire income in a bank account Mateo didn't know existed. She'd saved $800 and gave it to him the morning the payment was due, even though they both knew exactly what would happen with it. The rehab discharged Mateo's brother that Friday afternoon, and he was using again before the sun went down. Maria found him unconscious in their bathroom on Saturday with a needle still in his arm. The paramedics brought him back, but the oxygen deprivation left him with permanent brain damage that requires full-time care Maria and Mateo will never be able to afford.